Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're tackling, the age-old question. Why do we believe the things we do?
It's such a fundamental part of being human, right?
Absolutely. And you guys sent in some excerpts from Michael Shermer's The Believing Brain.
Great book.
It is. So we're going to kind of dissect that,
Yeah.
pull out some of the most interesting parts,
See what you have to say.
and see if we can maybe learn a little bit about our own beliefs along the way.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm excited.
Me too. So, you sent in that letter from Einstein to Ensign Rayner.
Right.
And while his atheism is crystal clear,
Oh yeah, he's very straightforward about that.
it's how he frames it that I find so fascinating.
Oh, interesting.
He doesn't just reject this idea of like a personal God.
Mm-hmm.
He really emphasizes this humility in the face of the universe's mysteries.
Yeah,
Does that connect to anything that Shermer talks about in his book?
it totally does. I mean, that humility really echoes Shermer's argument that there's no like supernatural.
Okay.
There's only like the natural and mysteries that we haven't figured out yet.
So we just haven't gotten there yet.
Right, exactly. It's like when, scientists use terms like dark energy or dark matter.
Right.
They're not really like explanation.
They're placeholders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're admitting what we don't know, but they're actively trying to figure it out.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not just like, well, we don't know, so God did it.
Right. Exactly. It's very different from that kind of God of the gaps argument.
Like
Wait,
science, like when it hits a gap, it just sparks further investigation.
yeah,
Doesn't just stop.
exactly.
But this drive to believe, it
Mhm.
seems, I don't know, so deeply ingrained. Like
Oh, yeah.
even when it comes to things like love and faith,
Right.
I mean, it's not always about logic, is it?
Definitely not.
Does Shermer address that the science behind these these really intense feelings?
He does, yeah. He dives into the biological basis of belief, the hormones like dopamine and oxytocin.
Right, the love hormones.
Exactly. The ones that play a role in love and the social functions that religion serves.
Right.
It's really amazing how much is happening on a subconscious level.
Well, so it's like we get to peek behind the curtain a little bit and see like what's
Probably, yeah.
driving these emotions.
Absolutely.
I'm curious though, do those scientific explanations, like I don't know, do they diminish the meaning of love and faith?
That's a great question, and it's where things get really interesting because
Mm.
Shermer's really clear that like understanding the biology
Mm.
doesn't like negate the personal significance of those feelings.
So it's not taking anything away from it.
Yeah,
It's just explaining it in a different way.
exactly.
Okay.
He even contrasts his view with someone who takes a more faith-based approach.
Oh, okay.
He quotes Jerome Groopman,
Mm-hmm.
who just straight up says, "Why believe? I have no rational answer."
Okay, so like, I get that. Like there is that side of it too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I don't know, I feel it and
Yeah.
it's real.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
I wonder if both perspectives can coexist.
I think they absolutely can.
Like just because we have a scientific understanding of love
Hmm.
doesn't mean we can't also experience the joy and the mystery of it.
For sure. It's about adding layers of understanding, not replacing one with the other.
Yeah, I like that. Adding layers of understanding.
And this leads us to another really intriguing facet of belief,
Mm.
the allure of aliens.
Oh, this is a good one. It feels like we're almost hardwired to believe in something beyond ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's like deities or little green men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there an actual connection there?
Shermer actually suggests exactly that.
Oh.
He believes that the belief in extraterrestrials might actually fulfill some of the same psychological needs as traditional religion.
Interesting. So that sense of awe, purpose.
Exactly. That connection to something larger than ourselves.
So instead of angels and demons, we have advanced alien civilizations.
Right. Right. I mean, it might sound like a leap,
It kind of does.
but Shermer like really brings in the historical context to support this idea.
Okay.
He cites George Basala,
Mm-hmm.
who points out that this whole concept of like superior celestial beings
Right.
existed, way before modern science.
Right. Right.
And Stephen Dick, who suggests that when like the Newtonian worldview
Mm-hmm.
replaced like the more spiritual cosmology of the Middle Ages,
Right.
that we kind of just filled that void with extraterrestrials.
Okay, so we just needed something to fill that that point.
Right. It's like, nature abhors a vacuum.
Right.
We got to believe in something.
Okay, but wouldn't that mean that the search for extraterrestrial life has like inherent religious
The
undertones?
very provocative idea.
It is.
Yeah.
Do scientists buy into that?
I mean, it's an interesting question. And Shermer actually backs it up with quotes from some very prominent SETI pioneers
Okay.
like Frank Drake,
Okay.
who actually said, and I quote, "A strong influence was the extensive exposure to fundamentalist religion. You find people who have been active in SETI, that there seems to be that thread."
Wow. So even those dedicated to a very scientific
Yeah.
search
Yeah.
for extraterrestrial life
Yeah.
see a potential connection to religious belief.
It's fascinating.
Right.
Yeah.
But let's flip this a bit, okay?
Okay.
What about the darker side of belief?
Ooh, interesting.
Things like conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
How do those fit into all of this?
Well, conspiracy theories are a really fascinating example of how our brains, crave patterns and explanations.
Right. We want to figure it all out.
We do. We're wired for patternicity and agenticity,
Yeah, explain that to me.
Basically, we see patterns even when they don't exist,
Uh-huh.
and then we attribute, events to these, intentional agents.
Mm-hmm. So like someone's pulling the strings.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we can't find those satisfying answers, we just create our own.
Sometimes, yeah.
Well,
Even if they're,
a little out there.
a little out there, yeah.
Okay, so how does that work? Do we just ignore the evidence?
Well, this is where things like confirmation bias and hindsight bias kick in.
Okay, yeah, those are big ones.
Yeah. We seek out information that supports our beliefs.
Right.
And then we interpret events in a way that kind of confirms our pre-existing narratives.
So even if we're presented with actual evidence that contradicts what we believe,
Yeah.
we might just
We might just dismiss it.
dismiss it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing.
That's a little scary, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, it can be. And Shermer actually uses 9/11 conspiracy theories
Okay.
as a really powerful illustration of this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He outlines these common claims made by truthers, as they call themselves.
Right.
And then systematically debunks them
Okay.
with evidence and expert analysis.
So he's not just saying oh, you guys are wrong. He's actually taking the time to show why they're wrong.
Exactly. He's breaking it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that he addresses?
Well, he even addresses the claim that no melted steel, no collapsed towers,
Okay, yeah, I've heard that one.
which sounds really convincing.
Yeah, on the surface.
On the surface, right. So he actually brings in Dr. Thomas Eager from MIT
Okay.
to explain the science of how steel behaves under extreme heat and pressure,
Okay.
and completely refutes this idea.
So there's actually a scientific reason
There's
why that argument doesn't hold water.
it's not just made up science.
Yeah.
It's real.
It seems like he's trying to understand the emotional appeal of these theories, not
Yeah.
just dismiss the people who believe them.
Exactly. He acknowledges that conspiracy theories can actually provide a sense of order and control
Okay.
in a world that can feel really chaotic.
Especially now.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Right. And they offer an explanation, even if it's a flawed one.
So it's not always about being rational.
Right.
It's about fulfilling a deeper
Yeah.
psychological need.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does this apply to something like the political divide?
Mm.
Are our political beliefs also a form of pattern seeking?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
They absolutely are. Political beliefs, just like conspiracy theories, tend to form these distinct patterns.
It's like we gravitate towards certain sets of ideas.
They do. And these patterns often reflect different underlying moral values.
And this is where Jonathan Haidt's work comes in, right?
Exactly. His 5 moral foundations theory.
Yeah.
It's like a framework for understanding how liberals and conservatives prioritize different values.
So for someone who maybe hasn't read The Righteous Mind, which I highly recommend.
Good book.
Can you give us the quick and dirty on his theory?
Of course. So he basically argues that liberals tend to emphasize things like harm care
Okay.
and fairness reciprocity.
So making sure everyone's treated justly.
Right. They're very concerned with minimizing suffering
Okay.
and making sure everyone's treated fairly.
Got it.
Conservatives, on the other hand, place more value on things like in-group loyalty,
Okay.
authority respect, and purity sanctity.
So it's about upholding traditions, preserving social order.
Exactly. Maintaining that sense of shared values.
So it's not that one side is, like, quote unquote right
Yeah.
and the other is wrong.
Not at all.
It's that they're just approaching morality from, like,
From totally different angles.
completely different angles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shermer really agrees with that assessment. He built upon Haidt's work, arguing that these differing moral frameworks really contribute to the conflict that we see in politics.
Right, because we end up talking past each other.
We do.
Yeah.
We assume the best of our own tribe,
Right.
And then we attribute the worst motives to the other side.
It's us versus them.
It is. It's
I mean-
classic attribution bias.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And then you throw in a healthy dose of confirmation bias.
Yeah, I've got to have that.
Right. And boom, political polarization.
It's a recipe for disaster.
It really is.
But I'm curious, does he think this is all, like, learned? Or is there, like, a biological component to our political leanings?
That's where it gets even more fascinating.
Okay, tell me more.
Because Shermer actually suggests that some of our political inclinations might be influenced by genetics and temperament.
Oh, wow. So it's not just
It's not just the ideas we're exposed to.
the ideas that we're exposed to. It's
our inherent predispositions.
like who we are.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nature and nurture shaping our political beliefs.
That's really interesting, which makes me think about Shermer's own political identity. He identifies as a libertarian, right?
It does, yeah.
So how does that fit into all of this?
Well, he sees libertarianism as kind of existing outside of that traditional left-right spectrum.
Okay.
It emphasizes individual liberty
Okay.
and limited government,
Okay.
incorporating elements from both liberal and conservative viewpoints.
So it's like a blend.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique perspective.
It's funny you mentioned that because I don't know why, but I'm remembering that scene from A Few Good Men
Oh yeah,
where Jack Nicholson shouts, "You can't handle the truth."
such a classic line.
His character, like, he represents that conservative emphasis on order
Yeah.
and security,
Yeah.
even if it means, like, sacrificing individual liberty.
Right. Like that's his whole thing.
Exactly.
And then you have Tom Cruise's character,
Yeah.
who embodies that liberal focus on justice
Yeah.
and fairness,
Mm-hmm.
even when it challenges established authority.
It's the perfect illustration of that tension between those two moral frameworks.
It is. So we've got these ingrained moral foundations,
Mhm.
and then we layer on all these cognitive biases.
Right.
I mean, are we just puppets to these mental shortcuts?
It's a good question.
Or can we break free? What's Shermer's take on that?
He doesn't really sugarcoat it. He
Does it?
calls out confirmation bias, hindsight bias,
Right.
self-justification bias, sunk cost bias.
There's so many.
It's a whole cognitive circus.
Yeah, we're juggling a lot.
We are.
And these biases, they affect our beliefs in all areas of life.
We're absolutely. It's not just politics. It's our relationships, our finances, even, our daily decisions.
everyday decisions, yeah.
I mean, so give me an example. Like, how does this play out in real life?
Well, I mean, think about confirmation bias.
Okay.
That can lead us to only read news that reinforces our political views, right?
Yeah.
Or sunk cost bias
Okay.
can make us cling to a failing investment.
Ouch. I felt that one.
Right. Simply because we've already poured so much time or money into it.
Oh yeah, I've definitely fallen prey to that one.
I think we all have at some point.
So what's the way out? Is there any hope for clear, rational thinking?
Shermer's a really strong advocate for science
Okay.
as our most powerful tool against bias.
Okay.
He calls it a bias detection machine.
I like that.
It's a systematic way
Man.
to uncover the truth,
Mm-hmm.
even when it contradicts our deeply held beliefs.
So it can help us to challenge our own assumptions.
Absolutely. And he emphasizes, the core principles of scientific inquiry.
Right. Things like forming a null hypothesis.
Exactly.
Seeking converging evidence.
Right. Not just relying on one study,
Right, right.
but looking at multiple lines of evidence
Okay.
and demanding positive evidence.
Oh, so you need, like, actual proof.
You can't just say, well, there's no evidence against it, so it must be true.
Right. Okay, I get it.
Right. You need actual evidence to support your claim.
So it's not just about, like, poking holes in other people's arguments.
No, not at all.
You have to have something to stand on yourself.
Exactly. You need a solid foundation.
Okay. I like that.
And he actually illustrates this
Okay.
by pointing to how scientists used converging evidence from multiple fields to debunk those 9/11 conspiracy theories.
Yeah, right.
And how they used positive evidence to support the theory of evolution.
So it's a process.
Yes.
Not just like a collection of facts.
It's a way of thinking.
Okay.
It's a way of approaching the world.
So even though, like, our brains may be, like, totally wired for belief,
Yeah.
they're also capable of like, incredible reasoning
They are.
and discovery.
We have amazing brains.
Yeah. So, but how do we harness that power?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. How do we apply this knowledge to our own lives?
That's what we're all trying to figure out.
I feel like we've covered so much.
We have.
It's a lot to digest.
It really is.
But the real question is, what does this all mean for you?
Right.
What's resonated with you as we've kind of gone through these ideas?
Yeah, what stood out?
From the believing brain.
I mean, maybe you're thinking about a belief that you've held for a long time.
Right. And maybe some of the things we talked about today are making you question that.
Question it, yeah. Or maybe you're just starting to see those biases
Oh, yeah.
at work in your own thinking.
Yeah, like, oh, I totally do that.
Right. Exactly.
It's kind of eye-opening, isn't it?
It is. It's humbling to realize that our brains, they're so complex.
Yeah.
And they don't always operate, in our best interest.
Yeah, we're not always as rational as we think we are.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can you use this knowledge?
Right. That's the big takeaway, right? Like,
Yeah.
how can you become a more discerning thinker? What are your next steps?
Well, Shermer ends his book with this really powerful call to action.
Okay.
He encourages us to use science as our compass, basically.
Okay.
In this world of belief.
So to be skeptical, but also, like, open
Open to new evidence.
yeah, to new information.
Absolutely. It's about, asking those tough questions.
Right, and not just surrounding yourself with people who
agree with you.
who agree with you all the time.
Right. It's about actually seeking out different perspectives.
And being willing to change your mind.
Yes. When faced with, compelling evidence.
Yeah, I mean, none of us have it all figured out, right?
Not at all. It's a lifelong process.
It's a journey.
It is. And Shermer, he says it beautifully. The truth is out there. And although it may be difficult to find, science is the best tool we have for uncovering it.
I love that. So what will you uncover?
Right. What are you going to go explore?
Are you gonna question your own assumptions? Seek out new evidence?
Maybe even challenge someone else's deeply held beliefs.
Ooh, that's a good one. The path is yours to choose.
It is.
We hope this deep dive has given you some new insights, a fresh perspective
Some food for thought.
on this fascinating world of belief.
That's a wild ride.
It is. Until next time.